Scotland, where, as you can see, it is a perfect day here on the Highlands, cold, misty and rainy. We're hopefully going to find a living haggis this morning and perhaps a Hielan coo with its long hair. I'm joined today by Viam on camera. There we are. My name is James Hendry and I'm not in fact in Scotland. I fooled you there, didn't you? Yes. We are in fact in South Africa. And the reason that I'm standing outside this magnificent tent is that the rain is inclement, or the weather is inclement. There is some precipitation. There has been quite a lot of rain during the night, and so we're going to start off the drive in here. We have two other teams out, Tristan and Steve. They are in the vehicles. They will hopefully be finding larger creatures than we will be able to find here in the tent, and if it clears up sufficiently, we'll go off on a little walk with Herbert. What is that, Viam?
Alarm calls.
Alarm calls. Franklin's. They were apparently alarm calling and now they're quiet, according to Viam. Excellent. Good. Please talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and the chat stream on YouTube, and we'll do our very best to answer any questions you have and, of course, address any comments you might have. Let us go now out into the field with Tristan and find out what his plans are for the morning.
Well, James, I think the plan at this stage is to try and, keep the lens of the camera dry, as well as to not freeze to death in the moors of Scotland, as you say. As James mentioned, my name is Tristan. On a camera, I've got Gendre. It has been a very long time since I've been with Gendre on a vehicle. Now, hopefully it will be better than the last time. Gendre, remember what happened last time? When you turned the camera off instead of going into infrared? Let's rather not do that today. So Genre is having a little laugh. We've actually just been discussing fishies under the ocean and his little adventure to the Grand Caymans. But anyway, besides that, it's at least wet out here as well, so he'll feel as though he's easing back into the bush. Now, remember that we do want to hear from you, as James said. We want you to send through lots and lots of questions or any comments. Maybe you saw something on the dam cam. We know Tundi was around there whole of yesterday, so maybe she was seen again. Remember that. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat. Now, the plan for this morning is, to find anything. Yesterday afternoon we were very unsuccessful in our searching for animals, and so this morning we're going to try and rectify that. Conditions are not great, but we're going to try and move around this sort of central area. Hopefully we can pick up some sign of Tundi and the little one somewhere in this area. Right. Now, Joy, we do not know about an injured impala that was seen on the dam cam, but thank you for letting us know. In all likelihood, if the injury is a natural one, so if it's limping, which I would imagine that's what you've picked up as an injury, if it's limping, unfortunately, then if it's not something to do with us as humans, so if there's not a piece of wire or something like that around its leg, then I would imagine that Tundi is going to be licking her chops at the thought of an injured impala, as would Hukamuri, Tingana, Hosana, or any of the other leopards that we get around here. In fact, even the hyenas might have a go if it's injured like that. But we'll have a look around and see. Maybe we can find some sort of sign of it and see what's wrong with it. I did drive past Quarantine now, and there was a whole bunch of impalas, but I didn't see any injured impala. But I believe that it possibly may have just been found by the other member of the crew, which is Steve, and apparently it is not faring too well, and in fact might even not be alive anymore. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm sure Steve will be able to fill us in a little bit better just now. I think he's just trying to see what's actually going on there before we decide, before we send you across to that side. In fact, there we go. Now I can actually send you across to Steve, and so that he can let you know exactly what's going on with that impala.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you joining us once again. This is Safari Live. My name is Steve Falconbridge, joined on camera by Fergus. We are out in Djuma, Sabi Sands. It is overcast. James says it's Scotland. It's not as cold and as wet as Scotland, but it feels like it this morning. And we found a dead impala. I believe Joy has told us about an injured impala on the dam cam. We just see at Vulture Dam. There's quite a bad injury on the back leg. I don't know if you can see that, Ferg. A very bad injury, in fact. And the animal is very dead. There's no other form of injury that I can see. That's just me moving the body. The rigor mortis hasn't kicked in. You can actually see around the grass over here how flat it is from it kicking its legs, probably trying to get up. It's been lying here for a little while. I couldn't tell you how long, but the ticks are still on him. Can you see the ticks here? There's another tick. There's a few of them. The ticks are slowly starting to depart the vessel, almost like sailors on a sinking ship. As soon as the body goes cold, it happens very, very quickly when an animal dies. The ticks just quickly let themselves go and get off. I don't understand exactly why they do it. I mean, sure, there's still some blood to be soaked up there, but as soon as the heart stops beating, the ticks just disappear. And I can slowly see ticks starting to move off. This guy, I think, is quite nicely attached. How marvelous. Dead impala at Djuma Dam. Not sure what's going on, but that injury is very, very nasty. It is a very shame thing. It does happen this time of year. I'm trying to ascertain, I don't know if you can see this injury, Ferg, how this injury happened. It's almost like it's been possibly bitten on the back of the leg there. It might have been a hyena at some point that maybe got close and just took one bite out of it, but these impala can still run quite well with 3 legs for a certain period of time, and then maybe he got very tired and laid down. It doesn't seem to be the kind of injury that would kill an individual of this size. You would just see them hopping around and looking quite uncomfortable for some time. I have no idea. I have no idea, folks, what the cause of death is. It's this wound over here, which doesn't seem to have bled very, very badly. How that's led to its demise is very, very hard for me to say. You can see how the neck is still quite soft. It's relatively, well, probably about a 4-year-old male by the horn size. But this is going to be a great place to come for hyena at some point. He's definitely dead, but not very long ago. I wonder what time Joy saw the injured impala on the dam cam. So here we have a dead impala. No idea, folks. No idea. The ticks are only starting to release themselves, which means he's probably been lying here for some time and he's just given up the ghost. Incredible. I initially thought when I saw it that maybe there was going to be some form of leopard activity or something. But with leopard activity, you're expecting to find something on the throat. I mean, it's still warm. It's actually still warm, yeah? Something on the nose. Maybe a leopard, sometimes they grab an animal on the snout itself to suffocate them if they're not able to get the throat. But there's nothing here on the throat, nothing, no damage at all on the nose. So it is a mystery. It is a mystery. By the way that it's been moving its legs, means that it's died and probably a little bit of pain. It's difficult to say, but when you come to carcasses like this, I've dealt with a few anthrax carcasses in my life. Up in the northern Kruger, there's an indigenous disease up there, anthrax, through spores, and the animal actually breaks its spine in an effort of contortion. So the neck would actually be far back like this, and you could actually see the back broken. So it doesn't seem to be that kind of disease. Whether it's just from the injury, it's very hard to say. Cynthia says it died 4 hours ago and quite suddenly. Well, Cynthia is still warm, so I think maybe it laid down and it's slowly losing body heat. And as I said, the ticks are still on the body here. Ray says it lying down for a long time. Well, Ray, it's still warm, so I think he's just died. And the first thing, as I said, you see is the ticks start to sort of drop themselves off of the body. We've got a few ants that have moved on, but the ticks, can you see them here? Can you see these here, Ferg? The small ticks over here are all starting to release themselves as the body temperature cools and as the blood stops flowing. They're going to jump off into an animal like this. You don't normally find animals dying of disease when conditions are healthy like this. It's normally quite uncommon. But an animal that will come to the scene very soon is going to be a vulture. Let's go with Tristan.
Well, I'm sure these vultures that I am seeing here are maybe waiting patiently to start coming down, because there's quite a few of them actually. In total I see about, I think, 7 or 8 of them that are hanging around in these trees. You can see there's a few dead trees over there where there's more, and they are at the moment just kind of sitting tight and I think hoping for the sun to come out a little bit more, and they can then swoop down from there and go and feed on this carcass. If it's at the dam itself, this is just south of the dam, and so I was just going to double check in case there was maybe another carcass somewhere here, because we know that the hyenas dragged some form of a carcass from the dam last night, which means that I'm sure it was Tundi's kill that she had that was then stolen from her by hyenas, and that's maybe why she was tracking that kill towards this area. But these guys might be here because of that. And what you find with vultures, particularly the whiteback vulture, which is what we're looking at the moment, and in fact all of these so far are whiteback vultures as far as I can see, they often will kind of come down towards a carcass, and you'll find 2 or 3 of them sit, and then a whole bunch more will land, particularly in conditions like this, is that they see others sitting, and then they come and just land to see what's going on and see if there is some sort of a food item that they can take. You can see another 2 or 3 in the background there. All of those are whiteback vultures, and they're all fluffed up at the moment, just trying to stay as warm as possible. I think there might even be... Yes, is that a white-backed? Yes, it is a white-backed. So they're all kind of just probably sitting, waiting for a little bit of sunshine, dry them off. Remember that these birds are heavy as it is, and then when you get rain on top of it, all those feathers get soggy and retain water. It makes it very difficult for these guys to be able to fly, and it becomes very hard for them to move around. And so they're just waiting for things to warm up a little bit and for it all just to kind of dry out. You might find a situation where they kind of put their wings out as well, just to try and kind of accelerate that drying process. Right, now while we kind of carry on and see what else we can find, let's send you back across to James in the tent.
Well, yes, back in the tent we are. We are very warm and comfortable here, aren't we, Vim? Yes, he nods his head. You see, that's him nodding there. Now, very interesting, that impala. And I think the first thing to talk about is the tick. Hang on one second. I missed that, Nicola. If you put the strap up, I'll get it. Ah, there we go. Aegis, you say, do I think it could have been a snake bite that killed that impala? I suppose it's possible. I'll tell you about snakes shortly. Let's just go quickly to the ticks. Those ticks that were about to hop off, as Steve says, the reason that I think they hop off is, of course, once the heart stops beating, the blood stops flowing around the body, and on that particular animal's obviously lying on its side, so the blood will start to pool on the, well, it would be the right-hand side of the impala, so the area that is most in close contact with the ground, and so there will be no blood in the surface where those ticks are. And so if they stay on the impala, there'll be absolutely nothing for them to drink. Interesting that it is still warm. I think that's quite interesting. So it's obviously fairly recently dead. It could have been a snake bite. It's quite possible. That injury looks quite severe. Maybe some kind of infection set in. I think that's unlikely, though, given how many dreadful injuries I've seen on impala and various other animals out here, and they don't seem to die from them. So perhaps not an infection. A snake bite is possible, though. The thing about snakes, though, is that it's not common for an animal to be bitten by a snake and then to drop dead. Those impala are massively fast, which means that if they see a snake, they could have got out the way, most likely. Lara, you're wondering about toxic plants and whether it could have eaten a toxic plant. Again, very unlikely, because these animals know this area. There's no kind of outbreak of toxic plants that the animals don't know. And I've always kind of understood it that animals will seldom eat poisonous plants. They kind of understand or can sense, smell, and taste poisons. And of course, most plants are poisonous in order to deter predators eating them, which means that the predators, well, herbivores in this case, can they can taste if something is not particularly good for them. So that's what I have to say about that. And in terms of snakes also, I actually stood on a snake on my leave recently. It was a night adder. I stood on the thing and it huffed and puffed at me, as is the wont of the adders, and all it did was try to get away. So I opened a sort of garden door in a fairly rural area in the Eastern Cape and just stepped through it, didn't look down, and I stepped right on top of a night adder, and then I shot 8 feet into the air and I went as the thing went at me, and then it hobbled off, didn't hobble, it slithered off. And that's what snakes do, they don't have any real desire to bite us or anything big like an impala, so I think it's unlikely. But we were talking yesterday about how natural death occurs out here, and so it's some kind of natural death. And Amanda, you're wondering about a bacterial infection, if that was possible. Yes, it is entirely possible. I mean, who knows? It could have got a bad cold. I mean, a bacterial infection could have resulted from a bite of some sort of particularly bad bite, say from, I don't know, a particularly rancid hyena mouth or something like that. That's possible, but it really is impossible to say without some kind of an autopsy and without some kind of really obvious bite wound that would have caused excessive bleeding or something like that. Very interesting. Most interesting, of course, let's find out what comes to eat it. In the meantime, Tristan has got a living mammal, the first living mammal, and other than the people you've seen this morning, and he'd like to tell you about it now.
Indeed, James, and I'm quite glad that you didn't get bitten by that snake. It would have been a nasty bite, given its cytotoxic venom, and you would not have enjoyed much of your leave if that had happened. Anyway, we do have a nyala bull that seems as though he's got tail on his mind, because he's got his nose down in the grass and is sniffing about all over the place, much like a leopard or a lion when trying to find a female. So he's kind of got nose down looking, and every now and then pops his head up, listens, looks around. So I think he might have lost his females. Now, I do apologize about the pole that you see there with our rain roofs on. We unfortunately have these guys that come down, and so every now and then they appear. But you can see his movement is kind of back and forth, and nose to the ground, sniffing about, probably trying to pick up the scent of this female that might be an estrus. You never know. She's probably left a sort of chemical signature, and he's trying to now work out where exactly she's gone from there. Nyala often do this. The males will try and sniff out the female in order to try and mate with them. They don't stay with females all the time, so it's not a situation where you have like impala males where they'll stay part of the herd, or you have a situation with, let's say, I'm just trying to think now, a territorial individual. These guys don't stick with the herd at all. They just try and move off and feed and whatever, and then as soon as they pick up a female in estrus, they then start to come into the herd itself and actually start to look for her. Now I'm going to go forward a bit so that we can maybe just try and see. It looked like he was starting to horn some of the bushes and sort of advertise his scent. So let's try and just get forward a little bit more. Zura, they are beautiful. They are incredibly good-looking antelope. Is that okay, Jean-Andre? Hopefully we won't have too many poles in the way. They are a great-looking antelope. Especially these males with their long, shaggy coats and these big sets of horns that they get, and then those little white markings on that very dark-coloured sort of fur just makes them very exotic looking. So particularly that white sort of band over the eyes is very cool to see. And you can see his fur is not as shaggy as normal. It's all matted together because of the moisture that's in the grass as well. That's what's fallen out of the sky today. But very cool to see. They're amazing animals, and you can see how the camouflage works on this individual. As soon as he gets behind those trees, it becomes a lot harder to see him. It becomes difficult to actually make out what is going on with his kind of body shape, and that's why predators kind of will sometimes hesitate, and it gives them a chance then to spot predators from thickets. You can also see why the white is valuable. It just kind of helps them sort of blend a little bit better than if they were just one solid dark mass. Brett. So nyala bulls Kudu and nyala males are not as solitary as everyone thinks. They can be solitary like this. Sometimes they'll be in small groups of males together, particularly if there's no females about. Then you'll find a lot of males grouping together, and you can get quite large groups. I've seen in kudus, I've seen a group of 16 males before together, which is pretty cool. In nyala, most I've ever seen is about 9 or 10, but you do get them in those kind of large groups together. And then the females, obviously, they are always in groups. There's very seldom a female by herself. It's in the bushbuck that the females will often go off on their own. But very cool. Anyway, it's disappeared and moved away. Now, before we carry on too far... Oh, come on, Rusty, don't start your nonsense. So Rusty's starting its nonsense again where it won't start. There we go. Now it has decided to start. But before we carry on, Nikki, I just want to see one thing that is right here. Now, what is this? There's some sort of a fungus that is growing on this marula. Big white balls. Almost looks like a foam nest, tree frog's nest, but it's not at all. Now, or is it? It doesn't look like it is. Is it foam or is it fungus? I think it's a fungus. It looks like a fungus. Now, I've never seen this on this particular marula before, and in fact there's another dollop of it on top. I don't know how else you would describe it as in terms of a sort of bump, but there is what I'm talking about. So it is a fungus. Now, I have no idea what this fungus is. I've never seen it. It almost looks like a furry kind of ball that's been put on there. Very interesting. And I see a few little white spots going down, and it's only where the bark has been exposed. So you can see this marula tree has been kind of stripped of the bark that it has on that piece of the marula, and that's where all the white dots are. You see a few other little white dots around that main big foamy ball. So I have no idea. Maybe James will be able to tell us what it is, or have a little look and see. Is that a moth also below on the left? Or is that just a bit of bark? No, it's just a bit of bark. I've got... Oh, is it a moth or a bark? What do you think, Jandre? Bark, with a little bit of foam underneath. But really interesting. You see there's actually something attached to that foamy stuff. It almost looks like something that's eaten it. You can see it almost looks like it's been eaten away. Interesting. I have no idea what fungus that is, but very cool to see. It's the first time I've seen it on this particular tree. Right, talking about James and helping us out, maybe he has an answer as to what this is.
I've got no idea what it was. I've got no idea whatsoever. I found another fungus growing out of the ground, and I wonder if it wasn't perhaps a similar but smaller version of the same fungus. There it is. We'll look at it under the microscope. Normally, of course, it's actually fairly disappointing looking at funguses under the microscope. You expect to see all sorts of interesting things, and they just look like smaller versions of the same thing. All right, Nicola, you may go to the microscope. There we are. See what I told you? Slightly disappointing. Very interesting sand granules there, though. Somebody thinks it looks like a mushroom of sorts. Well, it is a mushroom. I mean, that's of course what it is. It's what a fungus is. And this one, of course, a mushroom coming out of the ground, so much more the traditional mushroom. I'm not sure if I would eat it, however. In fact, I definitely wouldn't eat it. It may well result in some kind of hallucinogenic reaction, or indeed death, neither of which I really want. The former infinitely preferable to the latter. Right, let's put this down a little bit. It's been a while since I've been in here. It's been a while since I've been in front of any sort of lens, really. Did you miss me, Viam? Good, I'm glad. Right, oh, that is actually quite interesting. You can see the outline there. The yellowish hard outline of the cap. And then inside, all that flesh over there. Now, I don't know on a fungus like this where the spores are, because on a traditional mushroom, of course, the spores would come out of the gills, which are the underside of the mushroom. And on this particular one, it's very difficult to say where those would be. But that fleshy stuff is the main substance of the mushroom, and I guess where it stores its food. The mycelia, or roots, all under the ground when I pulled this thing up. That's actually really quite pretty. Ah. Now, Jared's buddy, you say, is my tent in order? There have been many visitors in my absence. I'd say it's in relatively good order. There is all of my special toys, however, are in pieces. That was a sort of the innards of a cat and the human body. They are in pieces. That's a bit sad. I actually think that was my fault, though, before I left. But otherwise, everything looks pretty much, yes, in place. Good. Okay, well, let's take that outside, and we'll just quickly show you this grass, Perotus patens, because it looks very nice under the microscope. Can we look at it under the microscope, Nicola? Or shall we go to Steve straight away? Let's have just a quick look, because it is very pretty purple colours, and it was especially pretty when it had bits of water on it. Ah, there we are. See how pretty. This is the Perotus patens, or the cat's tail, and there you can see the anthers which carried the pollen on Perotus patens. And just in case you are wondering what are the bits and pieces we're looking at here, let me try and point. I'm just going to lift it up a little bit. Sorry about that. You can still see the water. I'll just explain the other parts that we have here on a grass like this and the sort of point behind them. Let me try and get my little pointing device inside there. There it is. That I'm pointing at there is an awn. So when we say grass has got an awn, that's what it is, and it's like a sort of wing sometimes. Sometimes it's a drilling mechanism so that the seed can dig itself into the ground. And then, let me put it under again, under the awn there, that is the seed. That's the actual grass seed. And in just about every single African grass, except sorghum, the seed is minute, and almost too minute to be eaten by human beings, and it's one of the reasons that we don't have, or that there are no indigenous African grains other than sorghum and teff, but things like wheat and barley, which are the really big seeded grains, don't occur in Africa, and that's because the grasses have always had seeds that are just too small. Now I think we're going to go across to Stivovo, who I see is driving at a great speed. Where he is going, I do not know, but I hope he knows.
Yeah, it looks like we're going at great speed. We're not cruising too fast, but we are in the northern cut line now, the northern boundary with Buffelshoek and Djuma. We've had some reports of some elephants in the west, so we'd like to go and see what they're up to. I believe it's a couple of bulls, I think 3 elephant bulls, which will be marvelous in the morning. But how interesting was that impala? I think it's always amazing we find dead animals like that. I was thinking I should have maybe turned him over and seen if maybe there was an injury on the other side from an impala horn. I have seen a few of those before in the past where an impala who's lost a battle has run away and then he's been speared sort of in the lung just behind the ribs, has led to his demise. But that injury on his leg looked quite old, as if it had been festering for a while. It didn't look fresh and bloody or anything like that. Chris could be damaged from rutting. I mean, that wound, I said, looks to be a little bit older than the rutting's only starting to happen. I haven't seen any really sort of in-your-face rutting as of yet. And what we saw there, that wound on the foot, there wasn't bleeding, it wasn't fresh. No idea. I have no idea what's killed him. But he is dead for prey or food to a hyena soon. I think Tristan said he was with 2 hyenas that were slowly nosing their way into the area of the impala, and they will make very big work of him. Okay, before we lose signal, we're going to make our way to some elephants. Before we lose signal, let's go over to Tristan and see what he's up to.
Now, hopefully Steve does not lose signal too often this morning, as Steve has battled with the gremlins over the course of last few weeks, and he's been doing a sterling effort to try and get rid of them, so hopefully he will be able to get rid of them. Now, there is a vehicle in front here and another vehicle, which means that there must be something standing here. In fact, I think that's Ali that's in front of us at the moment. She's off to town today, so must be something. Elephants. If you look at Elephant Trunk Road, you'll find that it must be them. Yes, there they are, sitting on the road itself. Now, let's turn off our lights because we're blind everybody. Now, I believe there's a bit of breakup on our side as well, so we're just going to try and move a little bit out of the way so that we don't get into Ali's way. Right, now, it's two bulls that we've got, which is really good. So it's nice to have them around and kind of doing their thing, and I think we're going to have a situation where they probably have been playing quite a bit and having a sort of time together where they've kind of been pushing and shoving, which is very typical of bull elephants, although the one on the left is much larger than the one on the right. So you've got a situation where it's a much bigger bull on the left hand side, and this guy on the right might just be doing a bit of training at this stage. So sometimes you'll find that they kind of push each other around a little bit, and it's all just to try and have a bit of fun and a bit of training exercise to sort of strengthen the muscles, as well as hone a technique for later in life when they compete for males. We were chatting about the nyala just now, kind of sniffing out males, and obviously Ellie bulls are very similar in the way that they find females, is that they'll sniff them out and then they go towards them, and sometimes you'll have 3-4 Ellies that will arrive trying to mate to the same female, and so they need to practice and hone their technique and strengthen themselves up, and so that's how they do it, is having these little games as young bulls. But it seems as though the two of them have been here for quite some time now. Does his tusk grow backwards there, Jean-Andre, or under his mouth? It does look like it, eh? Looks like he's got a tusk that grows a bit differently. Now, I don't know if it started out like that, or if him trying to maybe, dig up a root or something like that has caused it to be pulled backwards like that. You can see that there seems to be some sort of damage on the inside of that tusk. It doesn't look like it's kind of complete, and doesn't look as though it is exactly the way that it should be. Now, I believe a lot of you are celebrating the fact that we've got some Ellies. Well, it's been a very long time since we've had Ellies. We've had a few brief glimpses of elephants over the course of the last few days, crossing out into the Manyaleti and into some Mambili. So, always nice when we get some Ellies around. And it's nice when you get a couple of the big bulls. They always have a bit of attitude and a kind of bit of presence to them. And I thoroughly enjoy that. But you can see actually where he's wiped his trunk on his tusk there, the mud that has been left behind. So this is how their tusks get so dirty, and then obviously with rain and them pulling on leaves and those kind of things, it kind of will clean them up again. But this boy has obviously seen a lot in his life. Tatty ears, broken tusks, inward facing tusk. He seems to have been through the mill a little bit, and you can see what I was saying about tatty ears. Look at how many breaks and sort of cuts and little sort of scrapes there are on the ears itself. It's pretty interesting to kind of see how some Ellies have these perfectly clean ears and others not so much. Now, at the moment he's actually drinking, which is quite strange. I didn't even know that there was a pan there, but he's finding water somehow, so you can see his trunk is kind of moving about. I wonder if it's maybe just a puddle that's formed over the course of the last few days with rain, and he's just having a little sniff. I think every single guide at some point has come across an elephant that can somewhat be aggressive and has probably chased them or charged them in some way. I've never had a real big problem in a car. I mean, I've been chased once or twice, but it's never been sort of full tilt and really sort of have menace in it. It's always just been kind of to warn me and to try to get me away. And I suppose if I had stayed sitting, maybe it would have gotten worse. But the nice thing about a vehicle is that you have an engine and an accelerator and a whole bunch of gears, and it's very easy then to try and kind of get away and to move off and not have to worry so much. So, from that standpoint, it's much better to be able to kind of just drive away, and generally if you create some distance you don't have too many issues. But I have had a few kind of little charges and little chases, but nothing that's been a close call where I've thought I was going to die imminently. Oof, Andy, to be honest, not 100% sure, but it's normally a space of a couple days. So I would say just over a week. Generally, you see some of the bulls that come into must here, then they last for about a week, maybe 10 days, and then they start kind of going out of it again. So it's not a long period that they last for. I suppose there's differences between certain kind of males. Some will probably have a situation where they're in must for a lot longer. Now, this bull is being a little cheeky with the car in front. He's just kind of, you see his tail, look at his tail, how erect his tail is. So often when you see their tails going out like that, that's when they're a little bit more kind of alert and are full of nonsense. So yeah, I don't think he's in must. I can't see. It's difficult because he's wet, but you can see there's the front of the car. So he's being a little cheeky towards them, and often big bulls like this can be that way. They sometimes like to just come and investigate and see what's going on and see why there's all this fuss with people and kind of all these eyes that are staring at them. So it's interesting to see his kind of behavior, but he's relaxed. He's not in any way going to kind of do anything to them, I don't think. He's just more intrigued by them. He's sniffing, he's listening, and just wants to have a look at what this object is with all these kind of voices and eyes that are looking at him. Now the other bulls moved off completely, and it's just this guy sitting on the road. Right, now while we sit with these guys and see what they get up to, let's send you back across to James, who's doing a spot of birding from the tent.
Well, I think the birds are more doing some humaning at the moment. They've come to the front of the tent. There are two species of bird here. One, the fork-tailed drongo that you're looking at now, and also an arrow-marked babbler, which is slowly stalking Wiem. Now, the arrow-marked babbler is not often seen on camera. They are very seldom in the open like this, and they move around a huge amount. And as soon as you stop a car next to them, they disappear. But we've got 3 or 4 of them here in the grass looking for insects to eat, and I think they're going for ants. That is very cool, and I'm pretty sure that the drongo is going to try and eat whatever they unearth as well. And if you listen very carefully, you might just be able to hear them going. And they do have that gorgeous red eye, which you don't normally see from the vehicles because they just don't hang around for long enough. And I suppose it'll be difficult for you to hear us going. You hear that? There we go. That's their sort of quiet babbling noise as they walk around on the forage. And they're called arrow-marked, of course, because they have got on their breasts, Wiem?
Arrows?
Arrows, well done, yes, good. Excellent. The drongo remains just above them. And Franklin shouts off to the right-hand side. Okay, that monstrous elephant bull is still with Tristan. I don't know what it's doing. It's walking down the road. Let's go and find out where it's going.
Well, it's at the moment not walking down the road, but just basically telling everybody this is my road, and now is going after the car that has just driven away. So it's now pouncing down the road after them. They're in front, and he's being very cheeky this morning. Ali was telling me that she's been stuck here for 20 minutes with the 2 bulls just standing on the road, not wanting anybody to pass. So he's in his cheeky phase, and obviously he might have a situation where he's starting to go into must. We'll just have to check. It's really tough to see when they're so dark from water, because you can't really notice the change in the inside of the back legs, but the back legs don't look like they're covered in fluid, so maybe not. But let's catch up with them. So Nisa, most definitely older bulls will catch and, well, not catch, but kill younger ones. We've just had a dead elephant on Djuma for the last few weeks, and that was because of an older bull killing a younger bull. So we had a situation where the older bull obviously somehow got hold of that younger one, the body cavity of that younger bull, and unfortunately hurt him quite badly. So it does happen from time to time. You will get a situation where there is a little bit of kind of fighting that goes on between older and younger bulls, and then you can often lead to death. So it is something that does happen, and it's normally when bulls are in must and there's a female around and they're hyped up and they want to try and mate and they see competition, and then they kind of get into it, and they can sometimes be quite brutal towards each other. So got to be a little careful with early bulls when they're in must, and just kind of watch their behavior and take it very, very easy when they are kind of in that condition, and give them a lot of space. But he must be loving this green grass and this weather that we've been having over the last little bit. Shamsang, it could be a hereditary thing in terms of the tusk growing inwards, so it could be, or maybe not hereditary, but it could be a sort of a deformity within his tusk. But if you look at that tusk is broken into pieces, and it's really not in good shape at all. So I wonder if he maybe didn't sort of twist it or break it in the lip at one point, trying to push or trying to sort of get a root or a tree or bark, and that's what's causing that. Or he's got a massive kind of infection, and that tooth is decaying effectively, and that's why it's as splintered and as split and as broken up as it is. But I mean, it could be a genetic thing. Obviously we know there's a lot of different elephant tusk shapes and growths, and we've seen a lot that grow under the mouth like that, and so it does happen. But this one is just in such poor shape. You can see how broken up it is. I mean, that is not going to last that long, and in fact I would be very surprised if that doesn't break off. It looks to me as though that tusk has been damaged at the nerve endings, and that it's just kind of becoming more and more brittle as time goes. Now, Jandre, would you like me to move so that pole is out the way for you? Or are we good? No, we're alright for now. So he seems to be meandering off now into the thickets, and it seems as though he's going to go for a bit of a feed in there. So we're not going to follow him in there. It's far too dense to try and kind of see what's going on inside there. So we'll leave him to carry on doing his thing. In the meantime, let's send you across to Steve, who's got, well, the footprint for one of our other big creatures we see here.
Yes, we do. Thanks, Tristan. We're on the fire break now, but we've also cut liners there. We've come all the way back because we were going to some elephants that Tristan has gone to. So a bit of communication error there, but that's all good. We found tracks of 2 male lions. Which track were you looking at, Fergie? This one or this one? This one. Have a look at that. Look at the size of that. Here's my hand. Isn't that enormous? Now, obviously the substrate allows for it to be a little bit bigger because the sand sort of moves out. But look at those toes. Isn't that just absolutely sensational? That is the front foot, and here is the back foot over here. Now, they're slipping a little bit in the mud, and you can see the distance between the front foot and the back foot is only slight, so they were moving at a reasonable pace. They weren't walking very fast. They weren't stalking, and there's 2 of them. I've got this one over here, and then this one over here. It's 2 male lions walking directly, I would say that is sort of east-northeast. So we're going to see if we can keep going up. I believe one of the I'm not going to get that name off my tongue, were killed last night. I didn't hear much about that. I just heard it in my ear now, but who knows who these males are. I could never tell you male lions or leopards from their tracks who they are, essentially. But let's see if we can follow up. We're quite close to our northern boundary. It is possible that they crossed over. I didn't see anything on my way through, but when the ground is very hard, like it is on the boundary there, boundary road, very hard to see. We're only seeing these tracks clearly now because of the substrate. It's a little bit of a depression here where the soil has been washed down. It's quite muddy. You can clearly see in front there's lots and lots of tracks in the road. And it's fresh. This is from last night. I would surmise, purely because there doesn't seem, or even from early this morning, there doesn't seem to be any rain on top of it. It is in the mud. I was comparing my foot next to it, my shoe scrape, and the color was looking very, very similar. There's been no sun whatsoever to bake on it. So let's carry on over here and let's go over to Tristan, who's got more of an update for you on the Majingalan males.
Well, yes, unfortunately, one of the Majingalans has passed away. Yesterday was found dead on Singita, that probably died of natural causes and then was fed upon by hyenas. So it was the scar-nosed Majingalan, not the dark-maned one that we saw here, which means that the dark-maned one is the last one that is left as far as we know. So there's only the last, one left of that coalition that, is as legendary as many that have come through here. So it's a bit of a shame and a horrible thing to kind of think about, and it's never nice when you have a situation where, coalition goes. But they were old males. I mean, they've been dominant for probably now is almost 8 years that they were dominant in the Sabi Sands. They came in 2010. And so, it's a long period that they've been around for, and they've really done a good job. And it's going to be interesting now because them kind of dying has just opened up this entire area now for the Birminghams to just go as far as they want. There's really very little competition. The only male lion that's in that western sector now is a young Ottawa male who's, I believe, about 2.5 years old, 3 years old. So he's got no chance if the Birminghams go that way. Even if it's just one Birmingham, it will cause problems. So it's going to be tough for any other males. There's nobody else, and so the Birminghams are just going to expand their reach. And I don't think that we're going to have a situation where we're actually going to see the Birmingham males very much up here in the north if this is the case, because there's really nothing stopping them. Now, for those of you that don't know the Majingaland Coalition, they were a coalition of 5 males that came into the Sabi Sands, and unfortunately one was killed by the Mopojos in the early hours, or basically in the morning, and then later that evening there was a massive fight between the remaining 4 and the Mapocho males, in which they killed one of the Mapojos, and that was then the start of the Majingaland sort of reign up here in the north. From there they then spread. They went south into Malamala, Londolozi. They were there for a long period, and they used to see them kind of coming in and out from here, and then eventually they went all the way down to the west where they started to dominate. And the particular male that we are talking about was a male that had a kind of nose where he had lost a lot of his fur and a lot of scarring that had taken place on his nose, and he was a very, very pretty male. So I've got a picture of him. Actually, I was looking through photos last night because I heard about this last night, and I was trying to find a picture of him. So that's what he looks like when he was in his prime. He has this very, very interesting nose that was scarred and cut and broken and all kind of sort of damaged, and it made for quite a character. And he was, when it first started and the Majingalans first came in, he was not really the dominant force within the coalition. He would often be behind Darkmane and the one that had a scar on his hip, but as time went on and the 4 of them got a little older, so he actually became the dominant individual and kind of took over from Darkmane and Hipscar and became this kind of leader of the Majingalans in a way. Now, unfortunately, like I say, he did pass away, but it seems as though it was, from old age more than anything else. And like I say, it means the Darkmane one is left. Well, as far as we know, we don't know what happened to Darkmane since we saw him. He hasn't been seen again. Now, Nikki, they can live to, it depends on obviously what sort of competition and those kind of things, and certain environmental factors, but generally you're seeing male lions live from anywhere between 12 and sort of 14 years old. Now, these Majingaland males, if we think when they arrived here, they were probably around between 4 and 5, and they were dominant for 8 years. You can think that those guys were probably about 13, maybe even 14, if we push it a little bit. So it's old for male lions. It's a long sort of life that they've led, and they were great for this kind of area. They fathered many, many, many cubs that survived. In fact, some may say that they fathered more cubs than the Mopojos in terms of actually raising to maturity, which is pretty interesting. So it's an amazing kind of sort of story that they've had, and how they came in, and that was really kind of where their fame came from, is that they were the males that challenged the Mopojos for the first time, and kind of had, I mean, I wouldn't say they were very successful, but they had some semblance of success by being able to catch the Mopojos in a situation where it was just the 2 of them together, and they was outnumbered them. They weren't bigger than the Mopojos at that stage, but they were able to slowly but surely apply the pressure. And the thing about the Majingaland males and why they was just always so strong and why they did so well is that they always stuck together, those 4. They never used to find them apart every now and then, but as soon as there was a situation where there was any sort of other lion roaring, the 4 of them were together and patrolling and pushing others away. So they were in an incredible coalition, and it's very sort of sad to see that this is kind of taken place. So Shamsan, the Majingalans had cubs with the sticks, the Inkahumas, sorry, the guys are just shouting in my ear here on the radio. The Inkahumas, the Torchwoods, they did mate with. I don't know if they ever produced cubs with them. The Four Ways Pride, the Manganes, the Salalas, the Ottawas, the Shamungwes, who else am I missing? Salala Breakaways, Shamungwes, Ottawas. Who else is there that they made? Southern Pride, Sparta Pride, or Ifield Pride. So pretty much every single pride that you can think of in the Sabi Sands, except for the Charlestons, as far as I know, they mated with, which is pretty insane when you think about it. And that's because they shifted from this north through Mala, through Londolozi, through Singita, into the west, and even sometimes down. I saw them on Lion Sands and Kirkman's as well. So it gives you an idea of how far the Majingalans reigned in their most dominant phase. So amazing coalition, and they really did a lot to kind of basically re-establish the lion prides and get them into positive numbers rather than going backwards. Good. Now we're going to carry on heading southwards. While we do that, I think I'm sending you back to Steve. Sorry, Nikki, I didn't really hear well, but either way, you'll find out, and hopefully you can find any signs of those Matimba boys. Actually, it's James. I do apologize.
What a fascinating story that is, the story of the Majingalans. 8 years is a very long time for lions to be dominant in an area. And when the Mapocho, I remember when the Mapocho arrived, I was still at Londolozi. That was around 2007. And everyone thought they were going to last forever because they killed everyone in their wake. They killed a lot of lionesses. I think it was 9 or 10 lionesses they killed as well. And, we thought they'd be around forever. And 2.5 years later, the Majingalan coalition came in, and here they have reigned for 8 years. Now, if you'd said which prides did they mate with, I'd have probably named the ones at Londolozi and Singita. I had no idea that they went as far west and south as they did, and I actually didn't realize they came all the way up here. I guess their range shrunk as the Matimba males came in to this area, so they started to spend much more time in the west and to the south. But very interesting also that apparently the Matimbas made a return here the other day, hairy belly on his last legs, and what did we call the other one? The ginger, of course. What else would we have called him? Ginger, looking pretty good. Interesting. Okay, I found what the babblers were eating. I know this has got nothing to do with the general story of the lions, but they were eating termites. Oh no, please, I have wrangled this thing now for about 10 minutes. There we go. Oh, no. Oh, this is just so irritating. I've figured out how to put him under the microscope and everything. Now he's stuck in the forest on my leg. There we go. Okay. Now you sit over there, little thing. There we are. Come on. But what was so interesting is how on earth... I've lost it now. It's gone. This is unbelievable. I really have been wrangling this heaving little creature to the left of the microscope. No, that's an ant. I don't believe this. How? Anyway, let's go outside and see if we can find another one. Tiny little termite. And how the babbler found the thing, I can't figure out. It's now raining again, of course. We were hoping to go out on our walk, but we can't now. Wiem, are you able to get down here? Yeah, they are still around. Now, bear in mind that this babbler and the drongo arrived here having seen these. They weren't just flying around. They both arrived at the same time, which means they must have been seeing them. Now, I know that you're looking at the ground thinking there are no termites here, but I've just seen one moving. There. No. This is an absolutely disastrous segment. There are some ants. But the termites are going in and out of this hole over here.
Is that ants eating a termite?
They're the ants eating a termite. Well, the ants managed to find a termite. Well done to them. There we go. I've never ever seen termites victorious over ants. Oh, shame. I always feel a bit sorry for the termites when this happens. Oh, is it still alive, or is it just being moved around by the ants? Nikki thinks it's still alive. She can see its feelers going. Poor little termite. And I think that's a fungus-growing termite. Shame. Ali, you want to know if fungus is deadly to some animals? Depends entirely on the fungus. Ali, remember, fungus is an entire kingdom on its own. So we have the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the fungus, or the fungi. Oh, they've killed another one. They're bringing it back towards that hole. The fungi are an entirely different kingdom, which means there are thousands of species, some of which you eat in your pasta alfredo, and others of which you wouldn't try and eat because they'd kill you, and some of which you might take recreationally at a hippie commune. We've got a real battle going on here. It's not just the isolated kill. There are 2 termites that have been murdered mercilessly by these ants, and in fact, they seem to be raiding the termite colony. Thousands and thousands of ants, overwhelming the smaller termite numbers. It really is very fascinating indeed. And like I say, I'm not sure what purpose the soldier termites serve, because I have never seen them fight off ants. I've always seen them capitulate quite quickly to the attack of ants. Now, what kind of ants these are, I'm afraid I don't know. There are also thousands of species of ants around here. Ah, yes, I would think they probably do. Daisy, you said ants inject poison into the termites. The only poison they have, I think, is formic acid. And yes, they could most likely inject some kind of formic acid into these termites. I think they also bite. You know, they bite really quite hard, and I think that's what they're using to kill the termites. I don't think they're overwhelming them with strength and numbers rather than with poison. Fascinating stuff. All right, we're going to go back inside. It's starting to rain now. Let's go to Steve, who is tracking lions. Wow.
Yes, we have still continued on our ways, and we have found a very nice sign of these male lion activity. And what we have got is where 2 of them lay down on the side of the road. I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty clear from the tracks coming in and out that there was a lion lying over here in the soil and another one lying just over there. Can you see some of the foot tracks, Ferg? There's a nice sort of foot over here as it was lying down. You can see the depression in the soil from where they were lying, and what they have actually been doing is there's some hippo dung here, and it seems as if they were probably rolling around a little bit in the hippo dung just to mask that rancid smell that they carry around with them wherever they go. It's not uncommon to see lions rolling in the dung of other animals, and here we've got some nice hippo dung against the side of a tree. Hippos will use nice sort of paths like this, but the tracks of these 2 male lions, they lay down here. They've been in along our fire break, which is just about 150 meters or so from our northern boundary, and they are completely mobile in an easty direction. And I called them in now on the radio, and I was told that 3 evoker males were actually found right up in the northeast of our property yesterday, calling and making all sorts of stuff, all sorts of sort of themselves known. So 3rd male joined them at some point, and these are definitely the tracks of 2 of them heading in that direction, but it appears as if they went east. So it was nice to stop and have a look at the tracks. I was trying to see if I could find any hair of the mane that's been left on the ground here and see if I can smell them, but the slight moisture you've had this morning has washed away that sort of smell that the lions leave in their wake. So we're going to continue on. Andy, I don't recall having a thunderstorm last night, but it's been spattering rain. It's been a little bit of rain. It hasn't been thunderstormy or showers, so to speak, just little bits of rain. But yesterday morning we had some. They continued through the day. It's a very nice soaking of moisture, and this kind of rain really benefits the grass layer. And when we get a day of sunshine, you'll see the grass is just going to luminesce and reproduce once again. All these plants are going to reflower. All the grasses reseed themselves. Any of the annuals that have seeded and have died will probably regrow themselves again. So it's a very good time for the regeneration of the wilderness out here when it comes to plant succession. And very, very exciting times. I know it's making it very hard to find animals, but it is the dynamics of the equilibrium of the savanna biome. And we've gone through the dry periods, the drought periods, and now it is a time of abundance. Time of abundance. So we were planning on heading towards Buffelshoek Dam. That is where the tracks are going, and that is where the lions were found last night. Maybe they've come back. Maybe they came back down to the dam. We could be lucky. So we're going to head in that direction and see if we can find them. Next, I'm coming into a bit of a depression. I'm not sure if you're going to lose my signal soon, but we were going to carry on. Yeah, so I was going to make a comment there before, and Wisteria's asking why no one's found or picked up the scent of that dead impala. I'm hoping the zoomies, whoever is in charge this morning, is watching closely to see if anything finds it. There's no wind, Wisteria. There's no wind at all. It's very gentle, and the impala has only recently died, so the scent of the impala isn't going to really waft anywhere. The smell of it at the moment is just the same as a live impala, so it's not really doing anything. But as soon as it dies properly and it starts to rot, then that's when the smell wafts off. As I said, when I felt it, it was still warm, and it doesn't take that long for the body temperature to cool down, so it's not that long dead. So before we lose signal in this little depression, let's go over to James and see what interesting facts he has for you.
Now, consulting detective, you were wondering about the Mopani or stingless bees that live in this skull. And, well, I will try and show you what they have created. Come on, microscope. Oh, that's a dreadful looking thing. Let me brighten it up a bit. There we are. There we go. Now, that's one of the tunnels they've built, and initially it started off as one tiny little tunnel, and it's now many little tunnels. Here's another one. And how these things survive here, I really don't know. Because they get jostled about, they stay in the tent sometimes, they're outside the tent sometimes, it depends who comes to the tent. And then I'll show you what it actually looks like on a macro scale. There it is. And for those of you who haven't seen them, there are tiny little bees that fly in and out of the little sort of waxy nest they have inside, I guess. And it used to be a very neat little hole, and now it's a great sort of squish-wazzle of wax. But I don't see them there, and they must be here because these things are growing all the time. And I think what's happening is that it's quite cold this morning, and they're not going to come out in the cold. Now, you see, they have to keep building new entrances because their old ones get squished. I'll remove this little piece here of wax. And we'll put that under the microscope too. Beeswax. We'll make a candle. Shall we make a candle, Bjorn? There we are. That's what the wax looks like. Huh. Now, Wim, come with me. There are some birds outside. Daisy, you were going to say, is it honeycomb? Well, I mean, honeycomb's made of the same stuff. It's made of the bee's wax. These particular bees, I don't think, make a comb. They must make a comb of some sort, but it wouldn't look like a comb of a honeybee. There, right above your head, we have got helmet shrikes. Oh, wonderful. Nice and close to us. And they go from bush to bush, gleaning insects off the leaves and off the branches. Liam's just tripping over a massive waterbuck skull that seems to have appeared here. Isn't that cool? I can't actually see what you guys are looking at. Nikki says, is that a baby begging? It probably is. There they are. What a really lovely sighting of them. That's not very common, actually. It's funny, so often, if you just sit still, which is pretty much what we're doing here in the tent, things will come past you that you don't see in the same detail as if you're moving around on foot or in a car. Beautiful. Okay, I believe that Steve has got some hornbills that are digging in the poop.
Yes, they are. They're now scoffing themselves to southern red-billed hornbills, and they seem to be picking up, I can't really tell from here what they are picking up, but they are scoffing down what I would assume to be either termites or ants. In the elephant dung there, and there is, yeah, definitely looks like termites to me. Termites that would have moved up from the ground to feed on the decomposing elephant dung, which is an ecosystem unto its own. These hornbills with their beak are sifting through the compost pile, and they'll be feeding on beetle grubs or larvae, anything that might be in there, as well as semi-decomposed seeds, grass seeds and fruits as well. But it seems as if, because this is a relatively old pile of elephant dung, it seems as if they are sifting through it, and it appears that termites are on the menu today. What a meal they are having. Normally you see them sifting through and it's not as busy as it is now, but you can clearly see them just knocking back shot after shot of termite. Very interesting how they use that beak as a shovel, as a spade, and in the process they are spreading the dung out onto the ground. And yes, it is in the road, but bear in mind, if this was on the normal path or on normal open area, they would be spreading this organic material, which would work as a form of mulch, covering the ground from the sun. Would provide sort of a nice organic layer for the growth of seeds, accumulate a little bit more moisture underneath. The rain that's falling won't evaporate straight away if it gets soaked into that organic material. So a very, very important element that's going on here. Obviously the termites doing their best to decompose the elephant manure or dung back into its original form, into the soil. And birds like these hornbills, obviously they won't make even a dent on the population of termites, but they will get their fill. The dung will still eventually get broken down, and the nutrients recycled into the system. A marvelous, marvelous way of the world. Shamsung, well, the hornbills I don't think would eat an adult dung beetle. They potentially could, but what they would be looking for inside there as well is if dung beetles had landed on the dung, there could be some endocoprids, so the larvae within the dung itself, living in there, feeding on the dung. as well as lots of flies. Flies also lay their eggs, and you get maggots and things like that, little beetle larvae and fly larvae inside the dung itself. So that's a lot of the times where certain insects will actually produce their offspring, or the life cycle will start in there, and the hornbills are aware of that. And then you can even see, a fork-tailed drongo has landed in the dung itself. And he is eating the termites. There is all sorts going on in this dung this morning. And the fork-tailed drongo doesn't have as good an ability to sift through the dung as the hornbills do. So hornbills, francolins, guinea fowls, they really do sift through and break the dung open. And that fork-tailed drongo landed there and just plucked a few easily accessible insects off of the surface. Their beak doesn't have that same sort of shovel-like approach. It looked like he was choking on a termite or something there. Tim, it's very likely that these two are a pair. It's also possible that it could be an adult with a youngster. And look, left, Ferg. Yes, one of the favorite birds to land in the mixture. We have got a hoopoo. Wonderful little bird party happening here. And there must be all sorts of little creatures walking around on the floor now. Yes, I know, I do attract the hoopoo. And their specialized beak, they can walk along and probe the ground for anything that might be just under the surface. But at the same time, they can also pluck whatever it is that's moving around on the ground quite easily. Just because you've got a specialized beak doesn't mean you over-specialized and you can't use it for any other purpose. Marvelous. And if you heard that loud in the background of the Swanson spurfowl, another one of the dung flingers, you could say. They like to scratch through dung of rhino, elephant. Marvelous morning with these little hornbills. I did see a barbet a few moments ago, but it didn't land in the picture. Oh, here we go. There we've got the emerald spotted wood dove, who would not necessarily be feeding on termites that I would know of. They are mainly seed eaters, but they are walking around very similar to the hoopoo. It's quite difficult to actually ascertain the difference in the tracks between doves and hoopoo. The emerald spotted track is a little bit smaller. The turtle dove is a little bit bigger, but the hoopoo's track and the turtle dove are very similar. But you quite often look for a little sort of probe mark in the soil from where the hoopoo's been doing his feeding. So, marvelous little bird activity. Starry night, just like your name suggests. There are always stars in the sky. There are always birds to be seen. I absolutely adore seeing the birds out here. And while we continue on, let's go over to Tristan Dix for an update.
Well, there are always birds to be seen, Steve, and it's a good time to be out here. A lot of the birds are going to be sitting tight and not going to be moving too much, and so it's good to kind of look for them, particularly raptors today, actually. It'll be a nice sort of morning for raptors on the trees and not doing too much work. So hopefully we'll find some of them. I'm hoping we'll maybe find something like brown snake eagles or maybe African hawk eagles. I know Taylor had a great sighting of an African hawk eagle the other day. But we are still just meandering along. We're going very, very slowly because we're trying not to get the camera too wet, so we're just going at a very, very slow pace and just absorbing anything that we can find. It's been a little quiet. We haven't seen too much in the way of tracks or even any signs of any animals since we left the alley, but it's still nice to be out. It's kind of got a fresh smell this morning after the rain. Oh, hello impala. Are you going to run away? Okay. It's that time of the year where a car will trigger impalas just to start rutting and running and doing their thing. So he's gone, he's out here, not hanging about for us to have a look at him, unfortunately. It's the way it goes though. Now, I wonder, yesterday we had tracks for Shadilu and Hukamuri all in this sort of southwestern corner, and so I wonder if maybe one of them is still hanging around. So I'm going to do a little couple loops around this section, see if maybe I can get lucky and maybe, just maybe, one of them has kind of walked on top of the rain and we can find them somewhere in this area. It is a good area for both of them. They both like this kind of section, and even though it's not great weather for them to go towards Treehouse, you never know. Maybe they're just still moving around Shabam and those areas. So that's kind of going to be the plan for the rest of the morning, is to check around this side, see what we can find, and see if maybe, just maybe, we can pull a sort of cat out the bag, so to speak. So Lynn, you are 100% right. You say you're jumping on for the nature part, and that 90% of the time that's what we're seeing, rather than actually any sort of chasing and killing and those kind of things. I'd actually go as far as to say it's probably more than that, so Lynn. Here in the Sabi Sands, the chance of you actually seeing a kill happen and seeing it, the whole chase and everything like that, is probably, I would say, not even 4 or 5%. You would have a situation that 99% of the time we don't see the actual kill take place here, which is not the bad thing. I mean, it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's an animal that's dying, and so sometimes not the most pleasant thing to see, particularly when it's something like buffalo and lions. That's always a bit of a sort of nasty one, and I know some people really want to see those kind of things, and you do until you've seen it, and then really you don't actually really want to see it that often anymore. I mean, it's amazing to watch the kind of physicality that takes place between lions and buffalo, but it's a sad thing when lions get hold of a buffalo and it takes them 3 hours to actually kill it, and they kill it by eating it rather than actually, you know, dispatching it before eating it. So it's you know, it's one of those things where, as much as it can be exciting, it's not something that you really want to see all of the time, and so it's actually nice to have that here, where we get a balance of a lot of hunts here, but very few actual kills that we see. And I think the hunt is more exhilarating for most of us, in terms of watching an animal going about its stalking method and getting itself into position, and watching that calculation process of the animal, and then the kind of way that prey and predator try and figure it out, is far more intriguing than the actual animal being killed. So I always like hunts that end in nothing actually happening. Exactly. Aussie is telling me that Safari Live is a good reminder and a good sort of show to people that it's not all about hunts, and it's not like some documentaries where things just get killed and the cats run around all the time and are highly active creatures. It's a little different to that in real life, and things are not quite how they seem on some of those documentaries. Not all of them. Some of them are fairly accurate, but at least you can see here that from day to day there's a lot that goes on that is very, very kind of, what do we call it, not lackadaisical, but it's just kind of not much goes on in terms of the animals' rest and sleep, and you know, they're not always in these kind of heightened states of running around and killing, and it's not a bloodbath out here. It's, you know, there's times where it's fairly peaceful as well, except when we're talking, of course. No. So, Dude, who is a new viewer, welcome, Dude, to Metro Booming. There we go. You are a new viewer, and welcome to our addiction that we have for all of you. And so you're asking, why is my car not protected? Well, because the savage animals that you refer to are not as savage as you may think. They are animals that don't really sort of worry about us too much, and having a protected vehicle, while it may help us at times, it's also going to hinder us in a lot of ways in what we can be able to see, how we go about our business, because we need to track sometimes, we need the camera to be able to see things, and so if you had a whole bunch of protection all over the place, it's going to be very difficult. And it just goes to show, well, how we don't get killed in those kind of things is because we're quite respectful to animals. So give them the right of way, allow them the space that they need, and slowly but surely they get used to your presence, and you now have a situation in this particular part of the world where safaris like this have been running for many years, and a lot of the animals here are fairly used to us driving around and know that we're not a food item because they're not taught to hunt us by their mothers, and we're not something that steals their food. We don't chase them, we don't hunt them, we don't hurt them, and therefore we're just a part of the ecosystem at the moment, and we drive around and they don't really worry about us too much, and they give us very definite indications when they're not happy, and it's to respect those indications and to then just back off and leave that animal to itself when it is not in the mood for you. So it's one of those things where it's about just sort of having some sort of ethics and respecting animals, and then that allows us to be quite safe out here without having to have protection all over our vehicles from the so-called savage animals that you refer to, because a lot of our animals here are not savage at all. They're just animals that are living and going off on instinct, and they survive by having to either hunt or whatever the case may be, but they're not savage in any way. They're animals that are just doing what is instinctual to them. So we don't actually have to stress that much, and driving out here in an open vehicle is one of the best feelings in the world. It's the best way to go about a safari for me. I don't really like to be closed up in closed off cars. The more open, the better. The fact that we don't have doors, the fact that we don't have a windscreen, we don't have any of those kind of things makes me far happier. There was an animal that just came past us, so let's try and see if we can find our animal that ran. Seems like maybe it's the same impala that just doesn't want to be put on camera today. Jandre, where did it go? It's gone. Oh, there it is. You see it there, Jandre, behind the bush. It's going the opposite way. Now, I do apologize if you see a few drops on the lens, because we have a situation where we have a bit of rain that's falling. Now, Nikki, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. If you can just repeat that for me. Now, unfortunately, have you got it? No, I think it's gone. Max, it depends. I mean, if we're looking at guests that have been before, then they are very good at knowing what's going on and what to expect. But if for new-time guests or first-time guests that come out here, 99% of them expect things to be chasing, running, hunting, killing, maiming, trumpeting, chasing us. It's kind of, people come with this amusement park expectation in a way, and it's something that is easily kind of sorted out quite quickly, and you just talk to people and you show people, and within a day they understand things a lot better. And I think, it's important that people come out here and see that, and it's why what we do makes me very happy, because we're able to show people exactly what it's like from a point of view of an everyday sort of experience out here, and that people come with a realistic expectation rather than this kind of Disney amusement park expectation that sometimes kind of happens. And so, there are days where it is going to be like that. So, I mean, I've had people that have come out on safari, and their first game drive, we saw absolutely everything, including a lion hunt, leopard on a kill, and we even had mating wild dogs in the same afternoon. And it's just kind of, it's one of those things that does sometimes happen, and you do sometimes get these crazy days where people see everything, and it can kind of, you have to try and manage expectations from there. But 99% of the people that come here and then visit will go away with a much deeper appreciation for what goes on here, and a much more of a kind of want to learn more about animals rather than just seeing kind of action all of the time. And I think that's the important thing, is that people start to understand the system rather than actually kind of anything else. Right, now Nikki, you're breaking up very bad, but I know that you said we're going to link, so I'm going to send you across to, I think you said Steve, but it could be James. Either way, it's one of our older gentlemen that are going to help out.
Look at this beautiful new mother. Yes, as Tristan said, you cannot guarantee to see anything, and you can have surprises all the time. I've been coming to Buffelshoek Dam almost daily for the last 2 weeks, and I have not seen these little downies, these little Egyptian goslings. You might ask why I call them downies, and that is because the Egyptian goose will nest and give birth, or not give birth, she'll nest and hatch, and they will be born precocial. And if you're not sure what the word precocial means, it means that they're able to follow mum almost from hatching. They're born with some down feathers, their eyes are open and they're able to move around, and they start feeding from day one. Whereas you get nestlings or hatchlings, which then are confined to nests and are born naked, blind, and completely reliant on the attentions of mother and father. And these precocial youngsters don't require as much parental care as ones in the nest. That's why you can see there are 8 of them. There are still 8. I believe there were 18 yesterday. They are very cute, and they're already moving around feeding quite deliciously on the vegetation, because they are... What's happening there, Ferg? Fergs, what's happened? He's having a little bit of a... We're having a bit of a wet issue in the back, but everything's good. You can see the Egyptian goose there feeding on some seeds, and the youngsters are moving through. They already know what they need to feed on. I find that quite incredible. But mom and dad, very good parents that they are, just swam across the entire dam with the little youngsters in tow, and it was quite something to see. And we'll see it now again, I think. They've had a little something, now they're drinking, and they were following, and it's quite funny when you see them follow, because you just see their little legs pumping. There we go. Hang on, Mum. They go quite quickly. Look how quickly they move. I find that incredible, how fast they move. Are they still from eggs? Most certainly, Lucy. Birds like this will nest in sort of a shelter underneath some reeds, probably quite close to the water's edge. The eggs are born, the eggs are laid quite large, and they'll be semi-camouflaged. And when they hatch, they come out and they look pretty much like what they do now. Hence they are called, what do you call it? They're called downies, because they're born with down feathers already. They're not naked, but they are definitely hatched from eggs. But you get the 2 different types. You get precocial, which means when they're born or hatch, they are semi-developed, whereas altricial, they are very, very underdeveloped. And the 2 different benefits there, you can see the youngsters are feeding on their own, moving around on their own. The parents can have more of them and don't require as much attention. Anna Marie, I am not sure at what age they can fly. I'd say probably from 3 to 4 months, but that is a guess right now. I have never really... There we go. She's spreading her wings. I'm going to assume it's from about 2 to 3, 4 months. I honestly do not know, though, the answer. I've never really spent too much time watching the development of ducks or geese, but they are going from one side of the dam to the other in search of good feeding. I think that's very cute. So there are 8 at the moment. Let's see how many of them manage to survive. You can see Mum going quite well at the seeds of the grasses there. I think that's Mum. The youngsters are very attached to her. And it's important, I don't know if any of you have heard of parental imprinting, but it's important if you had to raise these chicks. For example, you found or you came across a nest and the parents got killed, and you felt it was your need to rear the chicks and to survive them, then you would need to come across some form of dummy or puppet to put in place, so that when the chicks hatch, they see the puppet as the parent and not you. Because what happens in birds, happens in geese and ducks, is if they see a human initially as the parent, when they hatch, the first thing they see, they assume is their parent, and then they believe they are what that person looks like, and they actually fall in love with that person, and they will want to be a person, and they will want to mate and live the life of a human. So it's very important from those early ages. If you are rearing birds, you want them to be rehabilitated back into the wild. You can't let them see you as the first individual, otherwise that bird will be forever a human and will never go back into the wild and think a goose or a duck is its mate. They are eating, yes, indeed. There's actually a rehabilitation center not far from here where there's a black eagle that was reared in that way, and it attached or parental imprinted a human, and that bird can never be released back into the wild because black eagles or Varro's eagles are extremely territorial, and every single time that bird sees a human being, it attacks him or her. And it would not be a nice Sunday morning stroll if you had a black eagle constantly coming down with its talons outstretched to grapple the back of your neck. So if any of you do come across birds for rehabilitation, bear in mind the parental imprinting that they do undergo. It was coined by a scientist many years ago. I'm trying to think of his name, and all of his ducks were in love with him. Faisal, these chicks will not have been born in a tree, or not necessarily. They probably would have been born on the bank underneath the bush. It is possible that they would have been on top of a hummerkop nest or some other nest in the tree, and if they were, I'm not sure. I've seen them jump from about 2 meters or so off a riverbank into the river, as well as off of a bridge about 3 meters up, but I don't know how bouncy they are on the ground. Ideally, it would be good if they jumped into the water rather than onto the ground, because I think that might hurt. Okay, so apparently there was a nest above the dam cam. I'm not sure where those chicks are, if they are around, but I have no doubt that if the parent makes a nest somewhere that the chicks will be able to jump down. Maybe they can flap their wings briefly to just get a little bit of distance so as to land in the soft waters of the dam, even though Vulture Dam doesn't have too much water at the moment. Daisy, indeed, your question is true. Most geese and ducks will actually pair off for life. And I've actually read articles in the past that a male goose that lost its partner actually turned to another male for comfort rather than take another mate. So they are quite pair bonded, and they do enjoy each other's company. I am not sure about Egyptian geese, how long they will remain without a partner. We do have one sitting on the dam left of the hippos that is looking very lonesome and on its own, and I only wonder if that one has lost its partner just up ahead here. It was very interested in the other two geese and their chicks, and it was chased off by the male of the pair. So not sure where his partner or her partner is. But on that note, let's go over to James and see what he's up to in the tent.
I was researching and listening to the discussion on the Egyptian gooses. And I discovered that Egyptian gooses, well, I knew this, of course, that they do nest in trees, and the youngsters jump out of the nest at 6 hours old. So they jump out of the nest and apparently can spend up to 4 minutes stunned, just lying on the ground. And eventually they wake up and they start their lives. And they will fly or fledge somewhere between 55 and 84 days. That's the kind of range that we have in the bird app that I use. So that's just under 2 months, up to just under 3 months. So there's quite a wide range there. So that's basically what they do. Then we had 2 flowers over here. The first one was Hibiscus odorata, or the cat's tail. Hibiscus odorata. That's the beeswax there. We don't want that. And I was hoping to find thrip on there, but I didn't find any thrips at all. And I'm not sure what this plant is. I can't find what it is. So if anyone's got any ideas, Judy H., if you've got any ideas what flower that is, I would be most grateful to you. I feel like I may have known it before, but my small brain has forgotten it. Thank you, Vim, for showing everybody a close-up of my eye. Then I thought what we'd do is have a look underneath the microscope at this hibiscus pistil and associated pollen anthers. Ah. So this is the pistil. And you can see where the pollen is. Those are the anthers. And apparently it's a bit bright. Hang on a second. I wonder if I can fix that. If you come back to me next, we'll go to the menu. Yes, sharpness, exposure. Okay. We'll drop it down. Okay. Now, how do we escape? How's that? Is that better? There we are. Right, so that's the female part that you're looking at there. And on the top there, I guess it will gather the pollen where those little kind of claws are. And the pollen will travel down the inside of the pistil and down into the ovary, which is right underneath there. And that is where a new seed will form. That's where the eggs are. Isn't that interesting? Beautiful colours as well. Good. Okay. I just thought I heard some galloping outside. Did you hear some galloping outside, Vian? No. Yes, there is definitely galloping. No, you know what it is? It's it's water. You can see that the mist has continued to fall, and in fact it's now raining. It wasn't supposed to rain today at all. Anyway, that's what we have there. Then let's have one last look at this unidentified plant under the microscope and see if we can't find some form of insect life on it. Haven't seen a great deal of insects this morning, and I know it's been quite warm, and there's been water around, so I'm not sure why that should be the case. But we are heading towards the winter now. There you can see another two anthers. They would have carried pollen. And I think the insects are probably slowly finishing for the year. We were asked yesterday about, during our school drive, about the seasons that we have here. Oh, that's beautiful. This is an interesting plant because I can't see the obvious female parts. So maybe this one is separate sexes. Anyway, that's a male. Those are the male parts there. And I answered the person who asked about the seasons that we have very sort of indistinct seasons here. Autumn and spring, or fall and spring as you might call them in the United States or Canada, don't really occur. We have a very brief sort of autumn period, which we're in now. Basically it's April and a little bit of May, and I think it's the most gorgeous time of year because it doesn't have that blinding heat of the summer, and this kind of weather is unusual for this time of year. It's normally pretty clear. Everything's green and lush. We don't have that really kind of rough heat of the summertime. Anyway, that's where we are now. Let's pop outside and see what else we can find there. We would have gone for a walk, but it keeps starting to rain on us every time we think about it. Yes, still drizzling. Okay. Yes, I can't see anything of immediate interest out here, so I'm going to do some searching while I do that. Steve has got a fish-eating bird.
Yes, we do. Marvelous. Once again, we have found this lovely heron. Okay, and submerged in the water. I know Taylor saw it the day after I saw it, and now seeing it again, I'm still marveled at what it's doing. I mean, it's not actually doing anything. It's just sitting there, looking very pretty with its reflection in the water. Absolutely marvelous. And they are very, very patient, stealthy hunters. And it's possible that it's sitting there waiting for a fish to move past. Now, we filmed it the other day. It was busy killing a frog and then wiping the frog in the water, getting off whatever toxic chemical substance the frog might have had on it. And then after swallowing the frog whole, it looked like it... Ooh, here we go. What just happened there? Something happened. Got the heebie-jeebies as something moved past its feet. I was like, whoa, hang on, I'm moving on. Have you ever had that, folks? You're in the water and something touches your toes in murky water, you can't see the bottom? It's one of the worst feelings out, eh? And this heron seems to know for a fact that there's no young crocodiles in this water. But at least he's busy doing something. But we watched him kill the frog, and then it almost seems as if the frog had poisoned him, because he walked directly into the middle of the dam and then sat there for the longest period of time. You can see how the neck is sort of curled up. They can unleash it like a very sharp or powerful spear. Obviously the sharp beak and the head curled back like that, they can throw it forward in a very fast jabbing motion if anything happens to interest them. But I've never seen this behavior before the other day of a heron sitting so deep in the water, just waiting. I've seen birds sitting with their beaks sort of facing the water at least, and at least they're looking on visual sight, but it almost appears as if this individual's waiting for the fish to touch its toes or to disturb it under the water before making any form of a strike. Because what is incredible is birds like this actually can see with both eyes to the tip of their bill, and that's what gives them the depth perception when stabbing, and enables them to facilitate or utilize their beak to the best of its ability. Very still and stationary. Dale indeed, speargun bird, and they can unleash that neck in a very fast motion. I've watched the greenback herons hunting before, and it's quite incredible how quickly they can lash that head forward. Okay, well, while we're patient with this bird, Tristan's patience has paid off. He's found our hyena. Let's go over to him.
Well, we have, but our hyena is mobile very quickly away from us with a little prize that it has in its mouth. And so it managed to find a piece of the elephant that is around Twin Dams, and it's now taking it away. I'm not sure where to, but looking very proud of itself as it sort of takes a little bit away and further off down towards Hoffman's side. So I think these guys are denning somewhere that side. And it's just the way that these kind of so many tracks that are heading south towards Little Gary and Hoffman's, it gives me an idea that maybe, just maybe, they are in that area. But there it goes, kind of disappearing, and you can see why it's so tough at the moment to find a lot of our animals. The grass is so long that if they lie down, they just disappear in seconds and you can't actually see them. Now, we decided we'd come to the elephant carcass because it's been very, very quiet and very, very sort of dreary and wet and not very pleasant at all. And so I thought, well, let's just come and have a look at what's going on here. And there's actually, because of the rain, a lot of vulture activity. Unfortunately, two of the lappet-faced vultures that were here have flown away. It's so nice to see them because their size in comparison to the others is just amazing. But unfortunately, they flew away. So we just parked quite far away at the moment just to hope that the lappet-faced will come back. There was also one white-headed vulture here, which would have been nice to show both of them. And they unfortunately also flew. But how kind of ominous does that look? This kind of misty, rainy scene with vultures in a tree. It's very kind of... It suits a vulture, doesn't it? This weather this morning kind of suits the way that they look, and especially when you get this kind of misty backdrop. So I believe a lot of you are trying to guess what our hyena friend had in its mouth as it went away from us. And a lot of you are saying hide, a lot of you are saying a bit of bone or skin. I would say it looked like to me a bit of skin that it had there, so a little bit of the hide that was broken apart. Remember that now with everything kind of, with the wet weather we're having, the hide that was dry and difficult to eat is now softened and moist, and they can then sort of get it. So it didn't look like there was any bone structure in what it had, so I would also go with a bit of its hide is what is left. But it's amazing that there's still something for vultures to kind of congregate and come and grab and to feed on, even though this has been dead for, what is it now? Almost 2 weeks, I would imagine, somewhere close to that. And yet there's still birds that are here and still finding some sort of nutrients out of it. Although they don't really look like they're really feeding very heavily, do they? They're all kind of just sitting about thinking to themselves, well, what do we do now? These bones are here and they smell like food, but there's not really much for us. Also, I suppose the weather conditions means that they can't really go and fly too far. You can see it's difficult for them to take off. A lot of energy gets exerted when trying to fly in conditions like this. Well done, Jandre. That's a epic view of a vulture take off. Awesome. So slowly but surely they all seem to be kind of coming off the ground and actually finding a place to perch. So I don't think there's actually much food left for them, but it's still enough that they are kind of sitting and having a little look. There comes a hyena again. Is it the same one or is it a different one? Difficult to see from behind there. Well spotted, Jandre. Come on. Out from behind the mound. Of course it's going to stop right behind the mound so that we can't see it. Oi. Come on. There we go. I have to just kind of coax them in. So Teresa, you say they're still too full to fly. They do look a little bit like they are full to fly. I think it's more conditions than anything else, but there's definitely some full crops here and there amongst them. Now, I'm surprised a lot of them haven't found that impala yet. In fact, maybe they have found the impala and they've been feasting away. Some of them I feel like that would be a far better meal than this rotten old elephant that's hanging about. But you never know. Maybe they prefer stinky elephant. Maybe it's like a fine cheese. A kind of, the more sort of ripe it is, the better. I don't know. What do you think, Jandre? You think so? I think so. You prefer less ripe cheese. I think many people probably prefer less ripe cheese and certainly prefer less ripe meat than what is being fed upon over here. And then you can see it's hyenas starting to go to town on the bones itself now and to break them up and try and just get to the marrow that's inside. Now, Molly, no, hyenas are not animals that regurgitate, so you'll find that wild dogs will regurgitate for their young ones, but hyenas typically, depending on their ranking, will either take bits of the carcass back to the den and they just feed off those bits of the carcass, or they'll have a situation where they go or bring the little ones, the little cubs, to a food source and let them feed on it. So, but most of the time you see them dragging carcasses back. I remember watching a hyena on Elephant Plains drag an impala carcass several kilometers back to the den, an entire big male impala, and they got devoured by the little cubs that were there at the time. So they do drag mostly back, and then they don't regurgitate for the little ones. But you can see how they've kind of gotten into those joint areas and they're just kind of cracking off the cap of the bone and then starting to feed on that softer stuff that's inside there. I suppose it's all nutrients at the end of the day and they haven't had to work to get it, which is all good. Well, Romit, if you look at these vultures in terms of how often they need to feed in order to be full, if you look at the vultures when they were on this carcass, there were one or two birds that you could recognize by sort of feathers that were broken, or situations like that. And for the most part, you found them here almost every day. So I think it's a situation where they eat as much as they can and they digest. And it depends also if they've got chicks, because if they've got chicks, they might have gone and regurgitated for the chicks and then they'd come back and feed again. So pretty much every day the same birds were hanging around and they were just topping up those crops. As to how much that would be in a single day, I think it depends on how much they've eaten the day before or how much they've consumed, in the short period. It's much like lions and leopards, where you have a situation where if they've eaten a massive buffalo the day before, there's not going to be as much room for more meat the next day. So I think it depends on how much they've had and how much they can actually kind of fit in after the previous feed that they've had. But I'm not sure if they were completely empty and they had nothing in their crop, nothing in their stomach, what the sort of space element is and how much they could sort of shove in. But if you look at how quickly these vultures went through the big sort of chunks of meat on this elephant, they can eat a serious amount in a day. I remember watching those vultures the other day with an impala carcass where they ate the whole impala in the space of about 10 minutes. So they can pack away quite a bit. I would say, I'm going to guess that they can probably put away at least 2 kilograms of meat. That's what I'm going to say, which is a lot when you think about it as a human. Imagine trying to eat all of that. That would be far too much. So I'm going to go with 1.5 to 2 kilograms. That's what my kind of guess would be. Sharon, yes, vultures can carry diseases, particularly anthrax. So if they go and feed off a carcass that is infected with anthrax, then they go and they drink at a water point and they can actually transfer anthrax around. So they are carriers of that. I would imagine possibly even rinderpest and foot and mouth might be transferred by them, but anthrax is the really bad one because the spores get into the water and then it hangs around, and anything else that comes and drinks there will have a situation where there's going to be unfortunately, a lot of other animals that die. So, they are a bad sort of situation with that, and that's why any carcasses that are found that are believed to be anthrax related, which is often hippo carcasses, funnily enough, and kudus as well, they get burnt and to try and kind of stop the vultures from feeding on it and spreading that disease any further. There was an anthrax outbreak recently in 2015 or 2016, one of the two, in the Sabi Sands area just before the drought period, and it's very common for anthrax to come out during drought. What happens is the spores become dormant in mud, particularly in dry seasons, because of the sort of amounts of animals that die and all kinds of other things, weakened states, and then you'll have a situation where as the water recedes and that mud where anthrax spores have been hidden, as that gets kind of disturbed and animals kick up dust, so they then inhale those spores once again and then they start to die from it. So, it's a time of drought, often anthrax does come around, and I know Sabi Sands had their hands full trying to get rid of a lot of hippo carcasses that did test positive for anthrax. So something that vultures do contribute to as well. Anyway, I don't know if we'll see. We'll probably sit here for a little bit longer and see what's going to happen. I doubt that we're going to get too much more activity. It might be 1 or 2 hyenas that might come in, or a few vultures, but it seems as though our leopard-faced have left the area and gone. So, Nola and Colleen, it doesn't smell at all from where I am. The wind is not blowing in the right direction at this stage, so the wind is blowing from right to left across us, which means that we're not really getting a scent of it at all. We'd have to probably get a little bit closer, but the smell now will not be nearly as bad as what it was when there was still meat on there. It's dried out quite a bit now. You'll have a situation where it's going to have that dry, dead smell, as opposed to that kind of green, rotten meat smell that sometimes comes out of a dead elephant. Anyway, like I said, we'll sit here for a little bit longer, see what else comes along. Maybe our leopard face return. While we do that, let's send you back across to James, who's got an arachnid friend.
Arachnid. I do have an arachnid, everybody. Look under the microscope. This arachnid is living inside a Digitaria grass plant. I'm not sure exactly what kind of arachnid he is. I will have to do some more research. He's a spider, and this is his breakfast. This is what he's been eating. He's caught himself a large dung beetle. Well, it's large for him. The beetle itself is probably only about 3/4 of a centimetre long. About, just less than half an inch. And you can see, like a miniature version of the big one, he's got that spaded front of the head. Excuse the wobbling about a bit. And he's got his combs on his feet for gathering dung. And unfortunately for him, he was caught in the web of the spider. Beautiful spider. I will try and do a little bit of research. I'll go and get my spider book when we go off air and see what this one is. Now, while you're looking at the spider, yes, thank you, Nicola. Nicola says there's a blade of grass in the way. Basically, what she was saying is, move that blade of grass, you idiot. There we go. Oh, it does move around a bit. Gorgeous. And you can see, of course, all the raindrops caught on the web. Let's just leave him sitting there and see if he doesn't, or she doesn't, move back to the prey. While we do that, Judy, you reckon that flower that I found was called Acrotome inflata, which I had checked. And I'll tell you why it isn't Acrotome inflata. You can see Acrotome inflata's got a flower and then a stalk coming out of the flower, a bit like that wild dacha that we get here, the Leonotus leonurus. This doesn't have that, and in fact, I'm going to leave the spider here. I'll show you the plant that this comes from, and this will probably help you a bit more. Come over here. Liam's just trying not to fall over the cables and himself. Very good, Liam, well done. Here is the actual plant. So you can see it does look very similar, but there are no stalks coming out of the flowers. So I don't know that it can be that one. But Judy, maybe this helps if I show it to you in its entirety. Beautiful. Right, I want to go back to the spider now and see if it's not moving. Nikki, now you ask a very good question, and it may have been doing just that. You say, why doesn't the spider wrap up its prey first, rather than just sort of leaving it there? It may have been doing that when I disturbed it. So what it's done is retreat back into the middle of its web because it feels unsafe. It is just a magnificent creature. On the other hand, it may feel like the beetle was sufficiently caught and that it didn't need to waste any more silk wrapping it up, and that once it had bitten it and killed it, well, it would sit there and, without the need of wrapping it up. Now, YouTube viewer, you said all spiders make a web for catching food. No, they don't. All spiders, as far as I'm aware, can make silk, but they don't all use them for catching food. So this one has definitely used the web to catch food. It's strung it in amongst the stalks of this grass inflorescence. And I think this dung beetle has got caught in amongst the strands. Then, of course, the whole family of orb-web spiders, which are minute like this. This isn't an orb-web spider, but they can be smaller than this one even, and up to the enormous golden orb-web spiders that we get over here, and the bark spiders. Well, they obviously use webs. But there are a whole lot of spiders that don't use webs to catch their prey, and the jumping spider is the most obvious answer. And if you don't know what a jumping spider looks like, a jumping spider has got, what was that about my hat? I didn't copy that. Not? Oh, right. You want to see how big the spider is in real life. So something like a jumping spider, for example, you can see it's a tiny little thing. The jumping spider will not use a web or silk to catch its prey. It will just jump on it, basically. And if you have never seen a jumping spider, go and find, if you can, legally, of course, the clip on the Last Planet Earth show of the jumping spider hunting in the forest. It is a magnificent sequence. And so they obviously don't use webs. And there are a number of others that don't use webs either. A number of hunting spiders that will just jump on their prey, grab them, and then often wrap them up. But they won't use the actual silk for the catching. Okay, let's go back to Tristan. I'm not sure what he's doing. What's he doing? Not much. Driving about the place. And let's find out where he's driving.
Indeed, James, there's not much really happening out here, I'm afraid. We'd love to